Hello, everyone. Good evening. Today we have live HSC talk with Qadir Mahmood Soomro. This is our topic, means the theme video. And after some time, we are going to welcome Mr. Mike Watson, and I will introduce him. He's a very senior guy in occupational safety and health, and he has been my mentor, my senior guide, and today whatever I am, because of him, because he guided me in a very professional manner, and I started to learn HSE from him, and then with the help of his guidance, I completed many HSE qualifications, and today, Alhamdulillah, I'm a HSE professional, and I'm also a mentor. I'm guiding people. Just to give you an overview of today's session, today we are not going to talk about ISO 45001 2018 Occupational Safety and Health Management System. We will see how we can implement ISO 45001 2018 Occupational Safety Management System. So in this way, you will learn and you will get some feedback, and Mike is going to share with us a success story that how he implemented the ISO 45001 2018. So I don't want to waste your time, and I'm going to call upon Mike Watson, who is the HSC professional mentor with years of experience in safety, leadership, coaching, mentoring. Here we go. Let's welcome Mike Watson to help you to understand what are the practical things to be considered while implementing ISO 45001 to 2018. Let's welcome Mr. Mike Watson. Mike, welcome on board. Hi, how are you? You are live.
Well, thank you. I'm good.
First of all, I would like to thank you for your time. Especially, you are a busy man. I know your commitment. You are assessor. You are coach. You are verifier. You are lead. You are still doing some commendable work in field of occupational safety and health. So let me welcome you. I will not take more time because people are eager to learn. I already told them this is not occupational safety and management system we are going to learn. It will be how we can implement it. So here we go, Mr. Mike Watson. Please welcome on board.
Hello, everybody. Well, this is an unusual situation for me. First of all, I'm getting feedback from what I'm saying, which is a bit off-putting. Anyway, how are you all? I understand that most of you, it is early, late evening. You've done your day's work. Perhaps you've been off work today and are stuck in your accommodation because of COVID. But anyway, well done for making it through the day. You did exactly what everybody should do, go to work and come home safely. As Qadir mentioned, if I pronounced his name right, I never get the pronunciation of his name right. So Qadir, is that good enough, Qadir?
Say again, Mike. I did not hear. Please say again, please.
Okay, Qadir.
Yes, please.
Oh, that's good. That's your name. You answered. So
No,
I met
basically,
Qadir.
I will be off and I will be supporting people to watch in a well
Ah,
manner. So screen
okay.
is yours. If I need, I will come in. Otherwise, keep on moving, please.
I will. I will. I first met Qadir, well, many years ago, actually, and we met in Dubai. And I took him for a meal. I paid, nothing unusual in that. He's a very experienced health and safety professional, very ambitious man, very knowledgeable. To introduce myself, well, yeah, my name is Mike Watson. I've been in health and safety, well, too long, maybe some would say, but maybe 30 years. I've been a member of IOS for about 25 years. I've seen a lot of changes over those years. I don't want to go too far back into the background, but I think it's interesting to see perhaps some of the changes. And this does tie into ISO 45001. I will introduce the standard later, but I thought more than anything we'd have a chat about just what it means and perhaps how to implement it in the real world. Because the standard, like any occupational health and safety standard, it's about people. People are supposed to be in the centre of the standard. But there are different views on it. It depends who you ask. Well, why do we need a health and safety standard? Back in 1974, which I realised for perhaps most of you, you maybe wouldn't even been around then, but I was just starting work. And I worked at a builder's merchant, so the place where builders would go to buy their materials. And I saw a few accidents in the builder's yard, as it were, in the first place. And remember, 1974 was when the Health and Safety at Work Act came into force in the UK. But part of my work was to, with a hand saw, sew asbestos sheets into the size that the builders wanted. So I was sewing asbestos sheets into size, no face mask. I could have done with a health and safety standard back in those days. Perhaps more seriously was that a colleague of mine, in fact, he was my supervisor, he was killed in that builder's yard. He entered a confined space, which was underneath our vehicle weighbridge. And he entered a confined space through a manhole, and he left the manhole cover, which was very heavy, at the top of the entrance while he went down, and he was calibrating the weighbridge. And the manhole cover got knocked over, was knocked into the chamber where he was working, and he was killed instantly. Since then, of course, I've had a lot of work and I've seen more accidents, but I thought I'd start with that because it tends to put these safety standards into place and into a place where why do we have them? Well, we're there to keep people safe. At the end of the day, you should be able to go to work and come home safely. That's what we all want. This ISO 45001, of course, it's a good standard. It does a lot. It also says a lot, and it does say that it puts people at the centre of your health and safety management system. Well, that's true, and that would be true of any standard, no matter what you was doing. You can say that that's what it does, but of course it's up to all of us to make sure that it's what is actually happening. I'm just hoping that you can still hear me, because I can't see or hear you. So who would you ask about the standard, and what answers might you get? Well, in the first place, if you ask your colleagues about the standard and what it is, they might say to you, I've no idea what you're talking about, and I'm sorry, I'm very busy, can I just move on? If you ask an employer, they might say, yes, we need the standard, we want to keep people safe. On the other hand, there are different reasons why the standard might be put in place. For instance, SVT Limited here over in the UK, we put the standard in place because we wanted that certificate to show that we were a good health and safety company. We also put it in place because our awarding bodies and perhaps other people that we wanted to work to could see that we have the standard, and therefore would understand that we do care about health and safety and we do have a good management system in place. Really does depend who you ask about health and safety standards, but from our point of view, and I sort of have an understanding that the audience who I'm speaking to are like-minded. In other words, they want a good health and safety standard to work. You will see that I'm clicking my laptop here as I go through my notes. I do need notes for this. So let's just think about a health and safety standard then. We've sort of set the scene as to why we might want one. And certainly over the years, a good health and safety standard in place at the employers where I've worked would have actually prevented many accidents. When you're thinking about this ISO 45001, one way you might think about it is, or to set the scene, is to think about a ladder. And I just wanted to mention here that perhaps later in this, I may be asking questions. We'll do a bit of a quiz. Perhaps Qadir will even supply or provide some sort of certificate to whoever gets the most questions right. But if you think about a ladder, you'll put it up against the wall, you'll put it there in a 4-to-1 ratio, as you know, safe way to use a ladder. And the first thing you have to think about with regards to the standard is that it must be on firm ground, just like your ladder. And so really the first thing you need to do is to understand the scope of your organisation, what it does, who's involved, why do you want the standard in place. But once you've established that, you can then start to take steps to implement the standard. There's lots of resources online. You don't need me to present this as a technical presentation. If you go online, particularly to IOSH, there are all sorts of webinars and YouTube presentations around it. So I'm not going to go into detail too much. The standard, however, does replace or will replace 18,001, which again was a good standard. But 18,001, as you maybe know, it was process-based, and where 18,001 was procedure-based, and 45,001 is process-based. Two very different approaches. 45,001 also considers risks, but it also considers opportunities. And you will find that if you look through your management system and take an holistic view, to your management system and your provisions and your people, those you work with, that you will find opportunities as well as risks. And 45,001 is there, it's designed to do that. The other thing that 45,001 includes, it must include the views of interested parties. I'll come to that when I talk about how we implemented it, SVT limited. The other advantages to 45,001 is that it's easily integrated into 14,001, your environmental standard, and 9,001, your quality standard. So basically, it has three main objectives. And I've clicked too fast, so we'll go back. There we are. In the first place, it's a standard that really encourages continual improvement of your health and safety performance. It will, if implemented correctly, fulfill your legal requirements and other requirements are around obligations to people, contracts, etc. And it will, again, if it's implemented properly, help you achieve your main health and safety objectives. So, what I will do now, I will mention actually, just while we're chatting, you don't need to adjust your sets. Your sets are not bothering, it's me. I have a tremor. So just so you understand that, it's not nerves, I have a tremor, so don't worry about that too much. There are 10 clauses in ISO 45001, but we're going to gain an understanding of the main clauses, really. So in clause 4, you'll be gaining an understanding of your organisation and the scope of your organisation. That's that ground where we talked about putting the ladder on firm ground, and that's that area. So you need to understand your organisation, what it does, how it does it, who are the people within it. Clause 5 deals with leadership. Now, this is important. There's no point in you wanting to implement 45,001 if the leadership, and that may be the CEO, managing director, those in control, as we say, are not committed to a good standard of health and safety, and certainly may not be committed to 45,001. So you need that commitment from them. They can show that commitment in many ways, and I'll come to that a little bit later. Clause 6, that's an easy one. You all understand this one. This is about managing risk and opportunities and establishing the improvements. And clause 7 considers the resources and competence needs to achieve the standard. Resources, of course, in terms of money, but it could be money, equipment, time, people, etc. Clause 8 is about planning and implementation. And clause 9 deals with what needs monitoring and measuring to meet the standards. In fact, just on that one on clause 9, when we implemented 45,001 SVT, one of the matters that we didn't deal with and never really had was the monitoring of our health and safety policy. And when the auditor came to see us, which he spent a full day with us asking questions and looking at our documents, one of the items that he raised as an issue was that we didn't measure our performance, and he also wanted to see some measurement against a similar industry. very difficult. And to be honest, I've always found that, I will say difficult to deal with, because one person's health and safety performance against, or one company's against another, very difficult to measure. We all do different things in different ways. And accidents, I don't believe, anyway, accidents or non-compliances are difficult to measure, particularly in our sector, which is mostly office-based with a bit of travel. And we could only ever measure ours against a similar company. And you would expect a similar company to have few non-compliances, few accidents and instances, and almost none court cases or appearances in court for non-compliances. So we did it. We implemented some measuring and performance indicators, but clause 9, what needs to be monitored and measured to meet the standards. That was quite easy in terms of the monitoring side of things to meet the standard. And then clause 10 deals with implement corrective actions. Now, what you might have heard as I went through all of that is that it follows the plan, do, check, act system that, of course, we're all working with. And that is not much different to what we used to have in the UK some time ago, HSG 65. And in the same way as 18,001, but it is a very good system to work with, basically. So a quick overview there of 45,001, which, as I say, there's a lot of resources that you can go to and have a watch of them, as I say, in terms of YouTube. IOSH have some excellent resources, videos, chats, and documentation. And you will find some documentation on other blog sites. I've got a blog site. I'll send that up to Qadir. So going back to the ladder then, you've got your ladder set on firm ground. It's at 4-to-1, as it should be. And you want to take your first steps. Well, this is how we did it. And you'll notice, and I will say good evening to, I think, some of the students who I had over the years. Perhaps some of those have joined us, including Qadir. You'll notice I use the term we and not I. This is because when I first thought, well, we will put this system in place, this standard in place, that I had to, of course, include other people in that. So if Ian McNamara is watching, hello Ian, I don't think Mandy Picard will be. Ian McNamara is one of our assessors and health and safety manager at SVT. And Mandy Picard is our IQA, quality manager. I don't think Tim Watson will be watching. He is generally busy, but Tim is the managing director of SVT. So going back to this, the first steps I had to take was to establish exactly who SVT was, what it was, but more importantly, the people that worked within it and who they were. We're a very small company, and for the most part, I understood, of course, the business and what it did and what our risks were and what our provisions need to be. But I also needed to share that with other people. And really, once I'd established that, then the next part of it was to talk to, engage and consult with the staff. I did this, I think, in around about December 2018. December 2018, because we gained a certification around January, February 2019. So I then, as I was saying, I then went to speak to the staff and tried to engage them in the process of an international standard. And the first place I went to was, of course, the managing director, and I said, look, I think this is a good idea, put this in place. And he said, fine, what is it? And I explained it was an international standard that if we gained recognition and certification for it, we could use the certificate and a badge, and all those that we were working with would view it as a good quality health and safety company. So it didn't take much convincing, but I did need £2,000. If the dirham is still 7 to the pound, then you're looking at about, 14,000 dirhams, I'm guessing, but around about 14,000 dirhams. Somebody will work that out. Anyway, I needed £2,000. And that was just really to get SVT registered with the International Standards Organization, and so that they could then send an auditor through to audit us to see if we met the specification. Of course, we needed more than that from the leadership. We needed commitment, and that meant changing policies so that people, we didn't just say we'd done it, we could show it throughout our policy. Having done that, I then went to speak to the staff, and this is the part of 45,001 where you need to engage and consult with them. Now, for the most part, we're quite lucky. Our staff are highly educated, professional, certainly in their working life, and all of us have a background in health and safety management of care. So they mostly understood what it was that I was talking to them about. But again, in the most part, they would say, well, that's really great, Mike. You get on with it and do it, but I'm very busy. I have calls to make and emails to make. But yes, I agree with you. It's a good thing, and I think you should do it. Wasn't the end of the consultation process, but you can see the steps that I'm taking. And I'm now taking 2 steps up this ladder to reach the final goal. The next group of people that we consulted with was through email, and we emailed our awarding bodies, City and Guilds, the Institute of Leadership and Management, and the Chartered Institute of Management. And we had to explain to them what we was doing and why, and that perhaps the way that we're contracted with them and deal with them in the future would be through this system. Emails back were very encouraging, and yes, that's good. We're going to do the same as you. We were part then of that group. So that was all quite easy. We didn't have too many problems there. Now, what ISO 45001 actually states, and people will say to you, is that it's not about documentation. Well, we live in the real world. I'm sure you do. You've finished work, you're sat having your evening meal, you may be having a cup of tea or coffee. If it's tea, I hope it's Yorkshire tea, just by the way. But in the real world and in the place of work and the muddy boots and hard hats, when people talk about a commitment to health and safety and going up this ladder of competence, and they say to you that it is not all documentation driven, you'll know from your places of work that perhaps if you're doing entry into a confined space, that the paperwork must be there, it must be in place. We had around SVT around 81 documents that myself and Ian McNamara, who I mentioned earlier, had to go through. So that was really our next step. We had a look at our risk register. We considered all of our risk assessments, which will be less complex than yours, of course. We then had a look at our written procedures, in particular lone working, and we had to update these, to revise them, to review them, something that had not been done for some time. But nevertheless, we did need to do that. We also had to update our COSH assessments, and we had to give some thought to policies around environmental issue. Again, something that we've not really dealt with. Our carbon footprint is small compared to many other organisations, but there you are. 45,001 says it's not documentation driven, it's people driven. But I can tell you that the ISO 45001 auditor spent 6 hours with us. Actually, I think he spent 3 hours with me and 6 hours with Ian and Mandy. Mine was sort of a question and answer, and then after that, they were going through all the documentation. And all that documentation had to be uploaded onto the assessor's site, which took some time, and as I say, updated, etc. We also had to show throughout that process that we were actually engaging with people. They are at the centre of it. And perhaps for SVT, this was easier because we're all in the same building. And we can literally walk downstairs and talk to somebody and talk to a group of people or upstairs. So it was quite easy for us to engage people and ensure that their views on health and safety and what we were doing were taken into account. One of the other main things we had to do was that we had to look at our risk assessments and safe system for lone working. And that did involve everybody who was working at the office, but also those who needed to go out into other places of work. And we had to make some changes to the lone working policy for that. So 45,001 did lead us down that path of checking everything and make sure that everything we had in place was suitable, of course, and that it complied with the regulations here in the UK, perhaps different to where you are. And we did engage staff through that. One of the other interesting things that we did was we put in place a spokesperson for staff. We've never done that before. But this was somebody who all staff felt comfortable going to and talking to, whatever the subject was. Then, of course, it was health and safety that we put forward. But I also wanted to touch on, and I will later, about how COVID-19 and our plan was implementing using 45,001. So what the staff did with regards to this representation, they voted on somebody who they wanted them to talk through, and that was Mandy Picard. Now, following that, I will start to cut this short because I noticed it is now getting a little bit later. So having engaged the staff, talked to them, consulted, we learned about further training that was needed and how we might engage the staff further. We updated, reviewed all of our documentation, and it was time then, of course, having done all of that, to get certification for the standard. We did, of course we did. We paid our money for the assessor to come and visit us, the auditor, and we also entered into an agreement, a 5-year agreement with them. So the whole process perhaps took us 60 days. The cost was around, in the end, about £5,000. The commitment from the leadership was shown in that spend, but also shown in their approach to health and safety. With regards to COVID-19, you can see perhaps how, and I realise we're running out of time because I've waffled on, I've talked on and on, but you can see how within COVID-19, we planned, we were proactive, which 45,001 is, it's not reactive. We were able to draw up a plan, we were able to put the risk assessments and safe systems in place, then check those and take any further actions that we needed. And certainly around COVID-19, to date, touch wood, as we say, we have had nobody contract the virus within the company. So the last thing to mention is around this 45,001 is that some years ago when I used to own and run businesses, I used to get asked about 3 times a week, what jobs, are there any jobs going out SVT? Now there was, and at times there were. We had representation out in Dubai. I've often visited Dubai and Qatar and done some award ceremonies for graduations, etc. And I've met employers out there. However, that was the question that would come from students and other people, where are the jobs? Well, what I did want to mention was that if you're seeking work, wherever you are and wherever you want to work in the world, there are 2 good practices that I would suggest. Perhaps we can talk about this more in another session. But the first one is to understand the local laws. And in this case, the UK regulations, Health and Safety at Work Act and other statutory requirements. But the one thing about 45,001 that may give you an advantage is that if you know about it and you understand it, wherever you go to work in the world, if they've got it in place, then you can speak about it to them, perhaps in the job interview, perhaps on your CV. Because if you understand the system of 45,001, you won't do that from this presentation. This is more of a chat. And they do ask you questions around ISO 45,001 because they've got it in place. Then you may be at an advantage when seeking employment. And the last thing perhaps to say is that in the UK, yes, we're dealing with COVID-19. But the government here has announced today £5 billion worth of building work, let's say, infrastructure. So without a job, without a doubt, there will be jobs in the UK. And if you are seeking them, my advice, and I realise there are many obstacles to this, but my advice is to learn about ISO 45001. It would be to join IOSH. It would be to make friends in the UK, gain an understanding of 45,001. That just might help you. So there's only 10 minutes left on this. I don't know whether you've finished your teas or you've fallen asleep or you've wandered off to sit outside because it's too warm. But I'm going to finish there and go back to Qadir. But thanks for listening. If I've waffled, I apologise, but thanks for listening. Hello, Qadir. Oh, I can't hear you. Hello.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, thank you very much, because I don't wanted to interrupt you. You shared with us that how you started to get certification. You shared the different processes, how you started, and starting from beginning to the 6 steps which you shared with us. Just to make it a little bit interactive, I just want to know, what were the challenges which you faced? Being a small company even, did you face any challenges, and what are they, and how you solved them?
Yes, I suppose. And the main challenge was to get people interested. you must remember that, of course, we're a health and safety based company. So a nodding of the head, if you say to somebody, we're doing this, are you interested and would you like to be engaged? And they say yes. Well, saying yes is not the same as being involved. Ian McNamara, of course, he's a health and safety professional, so he was very keen and did a very good job, as would Mandy Picard. But of course, others, they're very busy people. So it was a challenge to get people properly involved. But once they saw what we was trying to do and how encouraging we were and enthusiastic, then yes, they did.
Now, with regards to the benefits, if I'm an entrepreneur or I am an organization, why should I have an ISO 45001 2018? What are the benefits for my organization?
So the answer to that will depend on who you ask. However, for us, it's a good idea because of our awarding bodies. Remember that we deliver qualifications up to level 7, which is masters. So our awarding bodies must be assured about our competence. And we can show that through the work that we do. But we can also show it through our quality marks. 9001, of course, the basic standard. But having 45,001, it doesn't just show that we have a quality standard, it shows, or should show, that we care about the people, all of us in the organisation, taking responsibility for what we do. So there's that, the benefits of gaining contracts with other companies. Some companies will not engage with you, will not give you a contract unless you have a minimum standard. So I'm sure that's the same everywhere. If you're a contractor and you want to join a main building scheme, for instance, construction scheme, they will ask you for your policies, your risk assessments, your training records, your competency levels. But they'll also ask you your standards, safety standards. And if you don't have them, you're unlikely to get the contract. So they were the main benefits for us.
Thank you, Mike. But I just want to ask you another question. Like before we had OSAS 18001 and 2007, it was a version of OSAS 18001 1999, and then it is transferred to ISO 45001. Do you think the migration from OSAS 18001 to ISO 45001 will be a challenge for the current organizations? As I know that in 2021, they are going to stop OSAS 18001.
Yeah, do you know, that's a great question. And I'm really pleased you asked, I'm genuinely pleased you asked. In the first case, 45,001 is designed to integrate with 18,001. So there are not too many changes. I think so that should be easy for those who have got an established management system and people who understand and can integrate the system. So now 2021 isn't too far away. However, I would say this, that date I think will be moved, and that will be because of COVID-19. Oh, you've gone. I hope you can still see or hear me. That will be moved, I suggest, and so maybe postponed. But even if it isn't, COVID-19 has proved such a challenge for everybody in the world, but particularly health and safety in the management systems, that I think we'll be so on top of things by then, it shouldn't become too much of an issue. Did you hear that?
Yeah, because I go sometimes out. I give you the space to speak because I don't want to be I don't want to be what we call cheese. I don't want to be like additional ingredient in the burger. So I want to give you a full space to talk to my people. They are really eager to learn something new, which we
Mm.
can gain from you, and we really feel proud to be part of you. And I'm the one of your student, and I feel proud to be seeing you again and listening and learning something new. So another
One day,
question.
one day we will work together on a project.
No problem. I'm available all the time, and it will be really honor for me. So the next question here comes.
Mm.
Some people have have in the mind that these certifications are overburdened. These are amount of paperwork only, but they will not add anything in their organizations
Mm.
because they
And
treat it as a cost, not
mm,
as an investment.
I understand. And, I mean, look, there was one moment. I'm just going to check a fact. There it is.
take your
Yes. So
take your time. Take your time. No problem.
there was almost 3 million deaths in the workplace last year. 3 million. And there was
My
almost 300 million workplace accidents. What is true is that for every dollar or pound or dirham spent, you will get two back. So you can double your investment by having a good health and safety system. And we all know the personal costs. I've seen people killed in the workplace and many who have had serious workplace accidents and they cannot work anymore. Well, that's a huge burden, both on them personally and their families, but also on the support that's needed. So there's the good moral argument for it, I believe. And financially, as I say, you'll get your money back double. Those companies who are willing to engage with contractors who don't have very good safety systems and safety management systems and safety standards, well, good luck to them. That will be proved against them in terms of workplace accidents, I believe, and ill health. So it's not just a certificate on the wall. It certainly wouldn't be if you was working for an international company, well-renowned, highly respected. If they have that standard, they work to it, and it's taken work to get to it.
Thanks, Mike. There's a one question from one of our student and friend. He's asking. It says that one of the objective of ISO 45001 is to meet and help in meeting the legal requirements.
Mm.
Share us your idea how it will be helping us in meeting the legal requirements.
Yeah. Well, I can only speak from a UK perspective. But as you know, we here have the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974 and all its sub clauses, and we have a range of health and safety regulations. So one of the steps that I mentioned was to check the scope of the organisation you're working with and your relative documentation. In meeting a standard, in meeting the regulation is slightly different to meeting the needs of what the person in the organisation needs. They are different. However, if you think about risk assessment, I'm sure that in your local laws, it will talk about undertaking a risk assessment and what needs to be included within that risk assessment. Well, 45,001 isn't prescriptive in that way, in the same way as a regulation is. In other words, it may not say, and this is how you should do that. But what it does do is to say, do you meet these regulations? Whether they're a statutory regulation in terms of in the UK, the management regulations or the welfare regulations. But what you can do is you can write your risk assessments, your procedures, your permits to work, etc., and check those against the legal requirement. You shouldn't really need to, because at the end of the day, you should be doing the right thing. But we all know that, for instance, confined entry into a confined space, there are some legal requirements. I know that one of your local laws talks about a permit from the local authority before that can be done on a construction site. Well, 45,001, you will check against that. You need a good audit list for 45,001, by the way. Everybody I speak to says, have you got an audit list, a checklist, to check against? And I say, yes, I do. I can't share it with you at the minute. But I've sent you the details to my blog site, Qadir. So.
Thanks, Mike. It is really nice, but we are about to finish our session. Just to draw you, one of the questions has been asked by one of our colleagues. He's asking that how will it be challenging to make an IMS, integrated management system, from ISO 9001, ISO 45001, and ISO 14001. So
yeah,
it can be synchronized. Will it be an easy, or it will be a challenge, keeping in view the structural current structure of the SL advanced structure?
Yeah, and we faced this as a small challenge around 9001, which was mostly the administration quality system. We found it quite easy, but again, because we are a relatively small company. But I will say that many of the standards within 9001, you can almost read across into 45,001. And that is also true from 45,001. This plan, do, check, act can be read throughout them. And, in 9001, that talks about integrating staff into the system and engaging them. Well, I'm sure 14,001 does, 45,001 does, but they all talk about having a management system in place, and a system which can be audited and revised and actions taken against. They all basically say the same thing. So they're reasonably easy to integrate, depending on the complexity of the organization, the number of staff, perhaps even the type of staff, and the scope of the organization and what it does, how many contractors, how many stakeholders, how many people is the organization engaging with, and how many different systems does it have?
I don't want to stop you, because you have been doing a very nice session. Final question before to sign out is, what is your advice to the young and experienced HSE professional regarding implementation of ISO 45001? A quick tips as a summary.
As a summary, that's fine. Did you say my advice to the young or the experienced? Well, okay.
Both young and experienced.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, to the young, study. I started studying in late in life, and it has been a struggle. As you can see, I look old, but I'm only 23 years old. So, it's aged me. What can I tell you? I've started to do an accent there, and I'm not like. No, to the young, study. Learn from others, find yourself a good mentor and a coach, but get those qualifications behind you. Join IOSH, because you'll find 47,000 like-minded people. So for them, for the young, they need to study Lane Young about 45,001, but Lane Young about these steps to achieving an objective. Your ladder's there, it's at 4-1, it won't fall, just go steady. Now, to the older ones, perhaps older than me, perhaps in their hundreds of years old, who knows? Talk to people. If you're running a business, then have a look at the benefits of 45,001. If you're a consultant, do the same, obviously, if you're an auditor or assessor. If you're, let's say, in that middle management ground, go and talk to those in control, explain the benefits to them, that if they're part of it, they can put something on social media and say, look what I achieved, because they might need help further on. So depending on where you are in your management system, as it were, in hierarchy, go talk to those in charge, get yourself a budget, convince them, and put it in place. I can't hear you.
Thank you very much, Mike. And really, it has been a great honor. And you took some time from your busy life. I know you are not a common man like I am. And I really feel proud to see you in the discussion. And it is like a dream come true, because you are my coach, my mentor, and you guided me the way forward to have CMIOSH. And today I am proudly saying that I have helped many people through your start, supporting them with CPDs, with CMIOSH, and many more international HSE leadership and training memberships. So thank you very much. Closing remarks.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I always like talking to you, Qadir. You're an excellent speaker, very professional. However, next time we meet for a meal, you will pay.
I know about it. I know. I know. And I want to tell you here something interesting, that I approach many intellectual people like you, men of knowledge. They are men of the knowledge, but they really ask me to pay them for their lecture. And I owe that. And whatever you send me the invoice, I'm available to pay, because I really respect you too much. You are an asset for us, and many of your students are listening you here. You have
hello, students.
NVQ. Those were your NVQ student, and I'm also one of your students. And I really feel proud, and everybody gives good remarks for your leadership and guidance and mentoring. Wish you good luck. See you soon, but without money.
Thank you, Qadir. All the very best. Take care, everybody, and thank you.
Thank you for your time. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is end. Sorry, we started a little bit late because of some IT issues. But anyway, it was really nice. I would like to thank everyone. Thank you for watching. Please share with your friends, with your colleagues. I hope it has gone well. At least we learned something from some expert, our senior coach, mentor, guide, and a man of knowledge in health, safety, and environmental leadership domain. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.